Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Unity of New Westminster. I am Reverend Rona Segarra, and it is time to sing our opening song with our guest musicians today, Leora Cash and Jay Krebs, who we love. This song is written by them, and it's one that we've become to know, and every time we sing it, we get to hear it and learn it a little bit more. So it's called You're Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on in and sit right down, 'cause you're welcome here. Come on in and sit right down, 'cause you're welcome here. Look around and you will see friendly faces smiling free, spirits, love, and family. Make yourself at home. Raise your voice in a joyful noise, 'cause you're welcome here. Raise your voice in a joyful noise, 'cause you're welcome here. This bright morning filled with song, raise your voice and sing along. Uplift for the whole day long. Make yourself at home. Feel the love with open hands, 'cause you're welcome here. Feel the love with open hands, 'cause you're welcome here. Welcome, welcome, and the love pours in. Today will never happen again. Leave only the happiness you bring. Make yourself at home. Sounding good. We're going to sing it again. Come on in and sit right down, 'cause you're welcome here. Come on in and sit right down, 'cause you're welcome here. Look around and you will see friendly faces smiling free, spirits, love, and family. Make yourself at home. Sounding good. Raise your voice in a joyful noise, 'cause you're welcome here. Raise your voice in a joyful noise, 'cause you're welcome here. This bright morning filled with song, raise your voice and sing along. Uplift for the whole day long. Make yourself at home. All right. Feel the love with open hands, 'cause you're welcome here. Feel the love with open hands, 'cause you're welcome here. Welcome, welcome, and the love pours in. Today will never happen again. Leave only the happiness you bring. Make yourself at home. Make yourself at home. Yeah.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Leora. Once again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity of New Westminster. I am Reverend Rona Segarra, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all here today as we celebrate Inclusion Month, which is what October is in BC. To welcome you, whether you are joining us. I'm not sure what's going on with my microphone. Thank you. If it was off, my husband would say it would sound better. No, he wouldn't. Sorry, Walt. Now, where was I? I completely lost my place. It really is a pleasure to welcome everyone here today. If you are joining us after being here in previous times, welcome back. It is lovely to see you. And if you are joining us for the very first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy your experience with us today. And if you are watching us online, either live or sometime in the future, a very warm welcome from all of us here at Unity in New Westminster. My mic is cutting out in a horrible way. So I'm just going to switch mics, Glenn. Yes, please. And I'll turn this one off. It can be too distracting to have me cut in and out. So better just to switch to something else. The Unity movement. And here at Unity in New Westminster, we offer ideas which are empowering to encourage you to live a life which is more full and abundant. We draw on the teachings of Jesus, and we draw on other faith traditions. We draw on books, on story, on poetry, movies, pretty much anything that we see in story is what we can draw on to get insight for a life that is more calm, more connected, more contented. And so we honor every person's right to choose their own spiritual path, which is the same thing as their own life path. All are welcome here. All are worthy here. And all are celebrated here. Let us begin our service in a time of centering prayer. We begin with gratitude and acknowledge that we are on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Kakite First Nation. And we give thanks for First Nation peoples everywhere for their love of this land. We give thanks that we can come together in song, in laughter, in community, to learn together, to grow together, to support one another. We believe there is only one power, one intelligence. That power is understood by many names. Some call that power God. Others, Creator, Mother Earth, nature, Gaia. Yahweh, Allah. By whatever our understanding for that creative power, we open ourselves to the idea that it is one power, that there is no spot that power is not, there is no spot that God is not. And that includes each of us. And in that interconnected whole, we realize that we are all one. And it is from this awareness of our power and our oneness with it that we send a blessing of love, a blessing most especially today for peace, for healing, for support, and for contentment, for wisdom. We send this intention to every being on this planet. That they know that we care. And in our prayer for upliftment, that they are uplifted. And we are so grateful that we are aware of our oneness, that we are aware that our prayer energy makes a difference. And it is so. Amen. Share with you the daily word for today. I'm sorry, Cindy? No, that's fine. Thank you. Today's daily word is generosity. The abundance of the world flows through me. I am securely in the flow of prosperity when I receive graciously and gratefully and share my abundance generously. Whatever I share with a loving, giving heart blesses me as much as it blesses the one who receives it. Every time I share of my supply, I am demonstrating my trust that I will always have what I need. When I share of myself, I am living my faith that I am a divine being empowered with a limitless supply of divine ideas. The richness of an abundant universe flows through me. Knowing this, I don't hesitate to be generous, so others will know the abundance of the world as I know it. Through my giving, may they also know the blessings of the awesome power and grace of God as they bless me daily. And this writing was inspired by the book of Corinthians, the first book of Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 12. Now we have received not in the spirit of the world, but the Spirit that is from God, so that we may understand the gifts bestowed on us by God. And we hear some lovely music.
So this is our congregation song. I invite you to be free and stand if you want, dance if you want, interact with one another. Yeah. I think you might know this song. Yeah, Sev knows it. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel all right. That sounds good to me. One love, one heart, give thanks and pray to the Lord and we will feel all right. Saying, let's get together and feel all right. Oh. people get ready. There's a train a-comin'. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to keep the diesels humming. And you don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. Singing, one love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. Singing, one love, one heart, give thanks and pray to the Lord, and we will feel alright. Saying, let's get together and feel alright. So people get ready, there's a train to Jordan. It's picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and board 'em. There's hope for all when you love the most. Singing, one love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. Singing, one love, one heart, give thanks and praise to the Lord, and we will feel alright. Saying, let's get together and feel alright. Yeah. There ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those whose chances grow thinner. There's no hiding place against the kingdom's throne. Singing, one love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. Singing, one love, sing it out. One love, let's get together and feel alright. Saying, let's get together and feel alright. Singing, let's get together and feel alright.
As we prepare ourselves to hear today's message, let us take a moment to open ourselves and our hearts and move into a time of meditation. I invite you to close your eyes with me if that feels comfortable. And if you prefer for the comfort of your eyes being open, then just allow them to rest gently on a focus in front of you. And become aware of your breath. Become aware of that in and out flow of life. And allow it to slow yourself down. Feel that cool air as it enters your body. Feel the warmth of the air as it leaves. And with every breath, allow your body to sink deeper into your seat, onto the floor, your bed, whatever is supporting you. And with every breath, allow yourself to slow. One heart, one mind, one love. Today, as the world seems to be in such turmoil, let us hold the idea of oneness. Imagine every person in every conflict being awakened to the idea that beneath their ideology, their anger, their fear, their protectionism, imagine if everyone could see beyond those outer expressions to their core. Their core that is love and longs for love. Imagine the difference in behavior. If we all knew that we are interconnected, imagine how generous we would be with each other because we want generosity for ourselves. We would be compassionate with each other. We long for compassion for ourselves. We would seek to understand each other. Because we seek understanding from others. So today, let us hold a vision for one love, one heart, one mind, and let it be true for the people that we know for the people we don't know, for the sides we understand, for the points of view we don't understand. And let it be true for each part of each one of us. For the parts of ourselves that we don't always understand. For the parts of ourselves that take positions that we aren't proud of. For the parts of ourselves that we like, parts of ourselves which we prefer not to look at. And let us hold a vision of one love, one heart, one mind, for each part of ourselves. That we treat ourselves and others with compassion, with openness, with curiosity. And let us imagine that all across the planet, every person sees the person first, the label later. And let us all remember, in a time of silence now, one heart, one love, one mind. We are one.
This one and that one, each one is God's gift to the world. There are no extra people in a mansion or a ghetto, from where you start your journey. anywhere you go. So look across the ocean, see those on distant corners, see the one beside you. Look in their eyes long enough and you'll know this one and that one. Each one is God's gift to the world. And I believe we are, and they are. We are God's gift to the world. And all the lonely people, the first ones and the last ones, all the great and small ones, the ones that win or lose, and all of them remembered, and even though forgotten, every single nation, I believe it's true of me and of you. Oh, this one and that one. Each one is God's gift to the world. And I believe we are, and they are. We are God's gift to the world. This one and that one. Each one is God's gift to the world.
Speaking of gifts to the world, thank you for your beautiful music. And speaking of gifts to the world, I would like to do an official introduction for our two speakers today. Dr. Aaron Johannes. That's your dad. For 30 years, Aaron was a director of Spectrum Society for Community Living, where his role was research, training, and team development. He also worked as an instructor at Douglas College, first in the Community and Disability Studies program, and then as acting director of their Aboriginal stream. Aaron is known to us and to people all over the continent as a speaker, an author, and a facilitator. He is a graphic facilitator, and we've become very familiar with his skill at the artwork that he helps create for us. He has a passion for story, reflection, for dialogue, for research, for inclusion, for leadership, and for art. more close to us here in this room, Aaron served as president of our board several years ago. And he has helped us in many, many ways clarify our vision, facilitated community conversations, and helped us in several iterations to create a strategic plan that was led by the community. It is my honor to call him a friend and an amazing, inspirational, visionary facilitator and educator. And Barb Goode. And I'm going to quote a few things about Barb. One is from something I found on the internet that was written by Al Atmansky in 2010. And I would like to read it to you almost verbatim, because it's so powerful. He wrote, "I sat with Barb Goode during the Paralympic opening ceremonies last Friday. As tributes were paid to Terry Fox and Rick Hansen, I couldn't help but reflect on Barb's pioneering role in breaking stereotypes towards people who are labeled mentally handicapped, and the unfairness that so few know about her when the barriers she faced were as formidable as Terry and Rick faced. In some ways, the obstacles she has overcome and is still confronting are more insidious because they can't be fixed with a wheelchair, a ramp, or a prosthetic. Within the hierarchy of disability, Barb is dealing with the least understood and most underappreciated: developmental disability. In fact, when she started her career as an advocate, people used deeply offensive words like retarded and moron. That these terms are no longer in common usage can be linked to Barb's leadership. She was one of 12 Canadians profiled in the 1981 Obstacles Report, which began the International Year of Disabled Persons. She worked on the groundbreaking Rights Now project in British Columbia, doing grassroots community organizing among people with disabilities. In 1986, she led the Supreme Court intervention in the case of Eve, which Aaron and Barb will share a little bit about, I hope. Given Canada's sad history of enforced sterilization of people with intellectual disabilities, Barb's intervention is a milestone on par with recognizing the damages of residential schools for Aboriginal children or the internment of Japanese Canadians. In 1992, Barb became the first Canadian with a disability to address the United Nations General Assembly. Many would consider that the peak of her career. Al writes, Barb, of course, doesn't see it that way. Like many effective leaders, it is her relationships that define Barb. She is the ultimate networker. Her address book contains more entries than anyone I know. She never forgets birthdays and special occasions and knows how to throw a good party. She is self-effacing to a fault and eternally vigilant. When she reads this, she will gently scold me to use plain language. And that is why the BC Representation Agreement Act is noteworthy, not only for its progressive content, but also for being readable to non-lawyers and lay people. You can thank Barb for sparking the move to plain language legislation in British Columbia. She sums up her career as doing things people didn't think I could. That's clearly the message of this Vancouver Paralympic Games. And as you watch the closing ceremonies tonight, this was in 2010, spare a thought for one of the foremost builders of the modern-day disability movement, a hero who deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as Terry Fox and Rick Hansen. Why don't we just have these two beautiful people come up and share their history of the inclusion movement in BC. Come on up, you two. And I forgot to mention that Barb is on our board as well. And we are so blessed that we have these two amazing people part of our community.
Thank you. That was such a good introduction. I'm just gonna write that all out and use it from now on. So welcome. And let's see. We can go to the first slide, I guess. Yeah? Good. Thank you. So October is Community Inclusion Month, I think for the last maybe 10 years, Barb? Something like that. Yeah. The legislature of BC decided to give a month to celebrating inclusion and particularly people with disabilities. So folks with all kinds of disabilities, physical, intellectual, learning disabilities, mental health, and so figuring out ways in which we can include people, but I think that Barb and I have been more interested in figuring out ways in which we can celebrate the people that kind of complete us, right? And so our communities are incomplete without everyone. And that was that great song that we sang. There was a line I was trying to remember, but of course now I've forgotten it. So that's been kind of a theme for the work that we've done. I met Barb about 11 years ago, and it was interesting because I'd spent probably 10 years working with a group of people that Barb used to belong to, that she decided that she wanted to take some time off. And most of the time that we were doing things, people would be wondering where Barb was and if she was going to show up and if she was going to come. And they'd be looking for her. And so we'd organize a conference, and they'd spend the whole time looking for Barb. And Barb was taking some time off. And so then finally I met her, and I was kind of intimidated, actually. Yeah, and then we met her in a mall, and we all went for ice cream. And we've been friends ever since. But soon after that, Barb and I had to go do an event. And we were driving to the event, and she was telling me a story. And so at the end of the story, I said, so, you know, this person with a disability was not recognized, not in the story. And she said, why do you think I'm talking about someone with a disability? She was talking about somebody who was actually leading an agency, right? And she said, you know, you've got some assumptions you need to look at. Consider me schooled. And that kept coming up. And so I was ripe for the education, and then we've been kind of learning from each other ever since. And I think the last slide is some of the recent work we've been doing with a big agency. Yeah, so the next slide. This is Inclusion BC is like the umbrella organization for the province. They started this year's Inclusion Month with an interview by Barb, with Barb. this talks, it begins by talking about the Eve case. Do you want to explain to people what that is? Because you've been really instrumental in helping people not forget what it was about.
Thank you. Where do I start? My ice cream cone. But in the late 80s, I was on the board of CACL, Canadian Association for Community Living. I hate these things. But anyway, so okay, so in the late 80s, I think it was. It's so long ago, but I was on the board of the Canadian Association for Community Living, and I can remember there was a court case that came about, and basically what happened was the committee I was on, and I was the chair of, there was people with disabilities from across Canada, and I can remember thinking, as a committee, we should take it to the Supreme Court, do something about it, because this woman was going to be sterilized, and we didn't believe in having her sterilized. So it gets very complicated, but basically it went to the Supreme Court of Canada, and we won the case, and she wasn't sterilized, and as far as I know, she hasn't been sterilized.
It was an interesting case, and I've had lots of people, when we've talked about it and written about it, had lots of lawyers and law professors approach me saying, oh, Barb is still around, and this case has been so important to my career and stuff. So folks with disabilities ended up with the right to control their own bodies, right? That's how seminal that case was. Up until then, people with disabilities were regularly sterilized. They were often told that they had appendicitis, or they were going to get their tonsils out, and they would leave the hospital and not know they'd been sterilized. So part of the fallout from this case, as people talked about it after it succeeded, was that a lot of people found out that they'd been sterilized when they hadn't known about it. So there was that lovely woman from Edmonton who wrote a book. Yeah, Lahani Muir, who was institutionalized by her mother, mostly because she was a problem teenager. And so they got her a diagnosis, put her in an institution, and she was there for a long time. And only when she left and kind of deinstitutionalized, destignified herself, and got a job, became part of the community, got married, and then went to have kids, did she find out that she'd been sterilized. And that was a really typical story. So, so it was important work.
And even men were sterilized. My fiance was sterilized in the institution.
Yeah, so, and that was an interesting story because he was offered a choice. He could stay in the institution. He could stay in the institution and not move into the community, or he could agree to sterilization, right? So, yeah. The next slide. Keep thinking you're going to turn it. So New Westminster has a really interesting history with disability. at one point, about 200 years ago, there was a choice about which would be the capital of BC. Would it be New Westminster, or Victoria, or Fort Langley? And so so Victoria got chosen, and New Westminster, as the runner-up, got the asylum, the lunatic asylum, right? Which the lunatic asylum had been only for about 15 or 20 people, and it had been in Victoria, and then it moved here. And so that was 1878. They transferred all the patients. Just go back or forward, yeah. Back one. Yeah, there. And so they had just a few patients. So by 1886, they had 65 patients, and the place was really designed for about 150 people. And then the next slide. The problem was that in about 1960, it had grown to this huge, huge estate. It was really self-contained and had about 1,500 people. So it was 10 times overcrowded, right? And then there was a report by one of Barb's friends called The Need to Know, where there'd been allegations of abuse and rumors of abuse, and then she did an investigation and wrote a report. And so this is Woodland School, which just was destroyed, and then, probably maybe 10 years ago, Barb? Yeah, they took out the last building. But New Westminster City has had kind of this warring attitude about people with disabilities. Like they actually they made a motion that they all agreed on, that they would no longer refer to people who had lived at Woodlands as victims, right? Because the Woodland survivors would come and want to testify, and they would refer to themselves as victims. The next slide. This is from a site, Michael DeCourcy's site. He made a big art project that was shown in New Westminster and a bunch of other places. And so this is the 1436. So 1,436 people was the highest recorded number of folks that were at the institution at Woodland School. There were 3 schools around the province, so there were triple that many people. So it was designed for 150 people, and 1,500 people lived there, right? So it was almost impossible to not end up in abusive situations. But there were people who were, raped and hurt, and it's a pretty awful place. The problem was that if you didn't send your kid there, there was no support in the community, right? So people were really forced into these situations where they had to send their kids to this place where they didn't really want to. It wasn't family friendly. It was a horrible place to visit, So Michael DeCourcy had this big show, and the show had big pictures of Woodlands, of the kind of buildings that were disintegrating, and then it had pictures of people who had lived at Woodlands and moved out, and were successful in their communities. And I always remember there was a visitor guest book, and in the visitor guest book it had folks who had lived at Woodlands would write, "I hope this place gets hit by lightning. I hope it burns to the ground. I never want this to happen to anyone else. I never want what happened to me to happen to anyone else." And then in the next entry, it would be, "Oh, I worked at Woodlands for 40 years. It was the best place ever. I loved everyone. My grandmother used to bring us cookies. She'd make them in the kitchen." Like these warm, heartfelt stories. So it was really bizarre, this kind of discrepancy between people who worked there and none of them were reading each other's notes, right? So nobody was really talking. So it's been a nice aspect of where our work has been to get people talking to each other in different ways. In the next slide. And you can go down here at any point. This is the Woodlands Memorial Garden. So this was designed by some of the people who lived at the institution, who had lived there. This sculpture is called a window too high, and it celebrates or commemorates the windows at Woodlands Institution, which people couldn't quite see out of, and then no one could see in. And so the idea was people couldn't see what was really happening there, so they couldn't do anything about it, right? But the folks who lived there couldn't see what was happening in the community. And one of our friends was really instrumental in designing this. So it's a really cool place to visit. There's lots of the gravestones are used to kind of create these sculptures, and so it's people who lived and died there. And the next one. This is just one of my favorite books. C.F. Goode, who's this incredible intellectual guy, and wrote this really thorough history of the last 1,000 years and the approaches to disability that have happened in different cultures, and particularly Western culture. And one of the things that you find is it didn't have so much to do with people with disabilities as it had to do with how much money you have, right? And so there's lots of art history, lots of things in art history that are people with disabilities with their siblings, but because they had lots of money, nobody talked about the fact that they had a disability, right? And then the poor people with disabilities were treated treated in these really strange ways. Like one of the things that they used to do, the Christians used to do, so there's this really awkward history around Christianity and disability. So they used to collect all the people with disabilities, and then they would put them into cages in the middle of the town. And they would kind of collect points to get to heaven, right? Because it was a good thing to collect people with disabilities and kind of take care of them by putting them in these cages. And so then they'd collect like points, getting into heaven points, right? But then at night, they would go down with sticks and stones, and they would throw things at the folks with disabilities, right, and torture them. The other thing that they used to do was the Ship of Fools. If you've heard of the Ship of Fools, they would go into a town, collect all the people with disabilities, put them on a big boat, and send them down the river and just let them out in a place they didn't know, where they had no connections, and so those people would kind of wander around and starve and get into lots of trouble. William Gaventa is a lovely, lovely guy that Barb and I got to meet a while ago at a conference. And he says that our communities and our congregations are incomplete without people with disabilities. And so it's been a really interesting part of the conversation has been kind of figuring out how that all works. So there are churches, like special churches for special people, and they're pretty fun. It's probably my favorite experience of church was going there. They have great songs that even I can remember. And then Bill Gaventa talks about just how being a complete congregation requires everyone, right? And so then how do we support each other? And when I called him about something, I think I was editing a book and I wanted him to be in the book. And one of the things that he said was, if you find a church that people don't want to include everyone in, call me, I'll call the pastor, and we'll duke it out, right? And yeah, so he's a lovely, lovely guy. And the next one. So one of the things that I've learned from Barb is just about ableism. Do you want to really quickly talk about what ableism is? Or are you going to talk about this?
I've been thinking that I think people need to know this one. Okay. I wrote this article a long time ago. It's called Double Standards. It has been a concern of mine for a long time that self-advocates are treated differently than other people. This is called double standards. I have one example of many that have happened to me. Okay, okay.
You can't pull away from me.
Okay, okay. I was at a conference and was visiting a gardening site of a local association. A staff was showing me and another self-advocate around, and we were taking a break when we were asked to sit with the other staff who were having coffee. I felt very uncomfortable because of two things. One being this friend who is a self-advocate, and I were asked to sit with the other staff, but other self-advocates who were there were not. At the table with the other staff, we were not taught to, so I got up and left to talk to other self-advocates in another room. And there was a woman self-advocate that told me something. She turned around and told the staff the same thing, and they told her to wait till later. The staff told her to go away, but when I wanted to tell them something, they didn't tell me to go away. One of the problems was that I didn't know if it was all in my imagination. The main concern I have is how to deal with it. Knowing how to deal with it and knowing that it's wrong. Also, how to explain it to other self-advocates. How do you tell someone this is how you're treating me and this is how I'm feeling? If you have experiences or ideas about how to deal with this, let me know.
Great.
But the ableism, I'm not, it's the same kind of thing, I think.
So the assumption that because somebody has a diagnosis, that they don't have something to share, right? So, and then, yeah, so the next slide. This is a little hard to see, but in this cartoon's really famous and people use it all the time. And so it's been snowing and the kids are waiting to get into school. The guy is going to clear the steps, and then the person in the wheelchair says, if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in. And so the idea is that lots of things that we learn about how to survive with people with disabilities can actually help everybody. And so a ramp helps kids and seniors and all kinds of folks, and anybody can use it. And so the same thing with plain language, which is one of Barb's causes and something that she translates. She translates government stuff into plain language sometimes. She told me a story once about getting this big government document and the social worker is asking her to translate it. And she said the problem was that after you got through all the gobbledygook, there wasn't anything else there, right? It was just empty. So plain language really gives everybody access. Obama, a few years ago, created a thing down the States where they decided that everything they do has to have a plain language version, but it works for everybody. And the next slide is the last one. And so over the last year, Barb and I have been working with a big group. I think there's about 2,000 staff. And so we've been working with these groups, figuring out how to flourish and what flourishing means. And so what flourishing in community means. So we do lots of things with art and drawing and improv. We've used some improv stuff and pipe cleaners. What else, Barb? We haven't sang with them. Yeah. Getting people to kind of free themselves up to talk about what helps them flourish in community and be part of community. A lot of it has to do with, being part of things, like being part. So it's been interesting to have lots of conversations about whether people are part of congregations and churches, because that seems to me like a natural place to start. And most people are not, right? So I think there's lots of work to be done in kind of terms of bringing people in and helping them belong. Is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I'm very glad to be able to talk to you today and to have Aaron helping me, and it's awesome. Yeah. And keep doing what you're doing.
And we have
Aren't we fortunate? Aren't we fortunate? I have two stories. I know we're short for time, but two stories I want to share with you. One is I was having lunch with Barb and with Aaron one Sunday afternoon after church, and I was walking towards the restaurant, ran into some friends I hadn't seen for a while. And the young woman I hadn't seen for 5 years, and how are you, what are you doing? And she said, I'm working in the disabilities movement, working at somewhere. And I said, oh, well, you might have heard of a friend of mine named Barb Goode. And she says, the Barb Goode? You know the Barb Goode? And I said, yeah, actually, I'm just on my way to have lunch with her. Could I come and meet her? Like, she was just so overwhelmed. It was awesome, awesome. It was one of my favorite stories about Barb. And this is my favorite quote from her book. Her book, The Good Life. Good with an E, life. Changes in labels over the years. I'll leave you with this because it applies to more than just the disability movement. Defective became insane, became retarded, became mentally retarded, became mentally handicapped, became mentally challenged, became developmentally delayed, became intellectually challenged, became people with mental handicaps, became people with disabilities. See how long it took for people to come before disability. Leave it on that. Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Aaron, for your work. Long may it prosper.
That was awesome. When Jay and I first came here, we felt a certain something. Now I fully understand it. Yeah. To feel that inclusion, to feel that openness, what a gift that is. So many of us, able-bodied people, we are struggling with that feeling. And when we came here, we felt it. The Spirit was alive and well. And one Sunday, Barb said, or I think, yeah, I was in the service, and I said something about being normal, and I said, well, I feel so comfortable here because I don't have to feel like I have to be normal or something. And Barb said, well, there's only normal on the dishwasher setting. And that was good. That was good. It's helped me a lot because we're always trying to fit in. But why bother? The life is outside the box. Yeah. Yeah, to Barb and Aaron. Said the fight to make ends meet keeps a man upon his feet, holding down that job, trying to show he can be bought. Ooh, it takes every kind of people to make what life's about. Every kind of people to make the world go round. Someone's looking for a lead in his duty to a king or to a creed, protecting what he thinks is right, fights against wrong with his life. There's no profit in deceit. Honest men know that revenge does not taste sweet. Whether yellow, black, or white, each and every man's the same inside. Ooh, it takes every kind of people to make what life's about. Yes, every kind of people to make the world go round. Person's the same inside. Everyone wants to feel the sunshine in their name. Oh, it takes every kind of people to make what life's about. Every kind of people to make the world go round. It takes every kind of people to make what life's about. Every kind of people to make the world go round.
Thank you. Every kind of people. Yes. Please join us on Mondays, both in person or on Zoom, from 10:30 until 11:15, as we hold our Monday meditation service. We enjoy a guided meditation. We read the names of the people on our prayer list. And it becomes a time of resetting and relaxing and connecting. If you would like to add someone's name to the list, then please fill in a prayer request slip with their first name and the last letter of their last name. No need to put what concern is about. Their name is all that we need. And then what we'll do is we leave the list on the names on our list for 2 months, and then we forward it to Silent Unity, where they hold those names in prayer at Silent Unity, which is a 24-hour day, 7 days a week, silent vigil. Also, join us on Zoom on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock for Wisdom Wednesdays. This is a chance for us to chat about insights and go a little deeper about what we heard on Sunday, and a chance just to share any other concerns that one might have. Not to worry if you don't see the replay of the talk. You're welcome to come anyway. And the Zoom link is on the website as well as in the email that you get. Be here next week. Next week, we're going to do a Sound of Music sing-along and commentary. I joke, and I'm not actually joking when I say that almost everything you need to learn about life you can find from the songs in the Sound of Music. And so Tom Arnson will be our musician, and we are going to sing to the songs of the Sound of Music, and you're going to hear some of the insights that we can get from the lyrics that are in the songs. And then please stay for pizza lunch, and then after that, please, if you want to, plan to stay for a workshop after where we'll go a little deeper into what some of those songs and meanings might be. The suggested donation is $20, but whatever is comfortable for you, including nothing, is absolutely fine. Just come along and bring your friends and family, and I hope to have lots of people here singing "The Hills Are Alive" at the top of their lungs next week. And then we had so much fun last year with dressing up near Halloween that we decided we have to do that every year. And so for those of you who are okay with dressing up, come on October 29th for our annual Halloween costume party. We're going to have a potluck, and then that will be followed by Cindy's Creative Cafe and karaoke. And it's just a time to have fun and connect and enjoy something that's going on around all of North America. Why should the fun just be for the kids? We're all kids at heart, and so if you'd like to, please dress up. And if you're not comfortable dressing up, come anyway. You'll just be, you'd be like a parent. Come and have a good time. And yeah, it'll be fun. And I'm going to make the program one of the programs from Spiritual Playdate, which is a program for kids and adults, kids and their grown-ups. And so we'll pick one of the Spiritual Playdate programs, and so it will be a program on that Sunday that will be for all ages. So bring the little ones in your lives as well, and we'll just have a big fat party. Barb's going to organize it. And Unity of New Westminster is completely and very generously funded by the contributions of the people who are part of our community. We are so grateful for the gifts that support our ministry. Many of us contribute every week, every month with pre-authorized donations. And we are especially grateful for those regular contributions. As the basket passes you, if you're not adding anything to it, then please just silently bless it and be grateful and express a sense of gratitude as it passes you. And if you are watching us online and you would like to support our ministry, there is a link in the talk description that you can go to and help us out in that way. And regardless of whether you are online or here in person, please remember to give from your sense of gratitude and your sense of abundance rather than from a place of obligation or the fear or any of that. We are abundant. We appreciate abundance, and we welcome gifts that are given from abundance. So, as we sing our blessing song, "We Are So Blessed," I invite you to hold something in your heart that you are blessed for. And we sing this lovely, lovely song. Thank you.
you'll have to remember. We are. Yeah, that feels good. Jay doesn't have the music. That's okay. Okay. Okay, shall we stand? Let's stand.
Yes.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And we are so blessed. So blessed. Thank you all for your presence here today. Thank you, Barb and Aaron, for your inspiration and your education and bringing to our attention some of the things we may not know. Barb has been one of my greatest teachers, especially about plain language. Thank you all for the audiovisual team at the back. Thank you for our greeters, for people putting coffee on, Leora and Jay, and for all of you being here, and for all of you online, subscribe. And let's join hands as much as we can. I don't know if we'll get into a circle so much, but let's join hands and sing our peace song and the prayer for protection. Oh, you're going to do it that way?
No, you do the prayer for protection.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next slide will play it automatically.
Okay. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous bow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. I am the light of God. I am the love of God. I am the power of God. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is. You are the light of God. You are the love of God. You are the power of God. You are the presence of God. Wherever you are, God We are the light of God. We are the love of God. We are the power of God. We are the presence of God. Where